Isaiah 61:10 and 11 says, I will rejoice greatly in the Lord, and my soul will exalt in my God. He has clothed me with the righteous garments of salvation. He has wrapped me with a robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom decks himself out with a garland, and as a bride adorns herself with her jewels. For as the earth brings forth its sprouts, and as a garden causes things sown in it to spring up, so the Lord will cause righteousness and praise to spring up before all nations. Well, if you're joining us in reading through this 25-day reading plan, today's reading is Isaiah chapter 61, verses 1 through 4, and Isaiah 61, 8 through 11, and I encourage you to read that passage. Now, I always have mixed emotions about this time of year. On one hand, it's a joyous time of year because it's anticipating and celebrating the birth of Christ. On the other hand, it seems to be, at least here in the U.S., an incredibly commercialized and self-centered time of the year. Everyone will talk more about Black Friday and Cyber Monday than they will about the whole purpose of what the celebration should be. And yet, Isaiah writes the words that his soul will exalt in God. This word brings a picture of celebration, of exuberance, of incredible excitement. We're to be excited about what God is going to do and what God did do in the birth of Christ, also in his death and his burial and his resurrection. Why has the focus changed from a focus on God to a focus on things? Well, this obviously is a question, and it goes directly to mankind's nature. We as humans like to seek out that which we don't have. That was true with Adam and Eve, and it's just as true today. We see bright, shiny object, and we immediately want it rather than be satisfied and content with what we do have. And I'm as guilty of this as the other guy. But if we're going to grow in Christ, we need to leave behind certain things. And one of those things is a desire to comfort ourselves with material possessions. Now, there's nothing wrong with owning something. The problem comes along when that item begins to own us. And businesses are in business to get you to buy stuff that will own you. Look at the car advertisements on television. They're telling you and me that we cannot be satisfied without the latest and greatest features of the automobile. A car is no longer a means of transportation, it's a means of luxury. It's a means of concept, of status. So what status do we feel when we call ourselves Christians? What status should we show when we talk to others about Christ? Are we willing to tell them that we are changed so that the focus is no longer on things, but rather on a life-changing relationship with God? Or are we simply giving another way for our lives to be commercialized and therefore commercialize their lives? A relationship with Christ should bring great joy, not great physical wealth. Relationships with Christ should bring contentment, not evoke the passion of jealousy. And a relationship with Christ should cause us to change to be like him and not to think like Adam and Eve, desiring some way that we need to perceive something that we do not have.